This is Ryan McKinnell sitting down with UFC middleweight Rich Franklin. How you doing, Rich?
Good. How are you today?
Good, man. Good. So we're sitting here in Columbus, and we're like kind of in your backyard again. We were talking. You got your boy George fighting. How does he looking coming into this fight?
He looks good. He and Dustin, they both trained for the show here.
Yeah.
Both of them are looking really good.
Good.
And mentally, they both seem to be on cue and everything. Camps went real well. So I'm excited about Saturday. I'm excited to see Dustin fight, and I'm excited to see George take a win here, in our backyard in the state.
Yeah, and he definitely needs it. The last time in Cincinnati, it was the backyard, and he didn't do so well. So.
Well, neither did I. So that kind of stuff happens.
Such as a fight game, right?
Exactly.
For sure, for sure. So how do you feel? You're coming up with Travis Lutter, and that fight's going to be in Canada.
Yeah, it's the April 19th card.
Right. So you're a lot of your fans, I'm sure, looking forward to seeing you get back in the ring and the cage, I should say. Tell us about Travis. How you feel about him as opponent?
I feel good. I'm confident. I know he's a tricky guy on the ground. I'm assuming that he's going to want to take me down for the fight. So we'll. We haven't done any tape breakdowns on him yet. I just started training last week for the fight. It was my first week. I've spoken to Matt Hume about training me again for this fight, working on the details of going up to possibly Seattle to train with him.
Good enough.
We haven't gotten all that stuff lined up yet, but a lot of that stuff will be happening here in the next week or two. He's done some film breakdown on him and everything, and he and I need to sit down, which we might possibly do this week because he's here with Lieben at the UFC. So just a lot of things that are kind of moving in and out at this point, finalizing camps and all that kind of stuff. But so far, everything's going real well. Getting myself back into fight shape and all that kind of stuff, and I feel good. I feel good about the fight.
Well, good. And that's the thing is, a lot of people wonder, how you come off of a loss, especially, another one against Anderson Silva, and there were rumblings. I don't know. I didn't hear it come from your mouth, but there were rumblings that you were thinking about retirement. How much of that was real, and how much of it was just media bullcrap?
When you lose a fight, things go through your head. I lost my second fight to Silva. You start thinking, what am I going to do from here? Where do I go from here? If I've lost a title fight to the same guy twice now, and all that kind of stuff. And I think those spawned into rumors that I was going to retire, but I'm 33. I'm still fairly young for the fight game.
Right.
And I always, I envision myself retiring maybe 36-ish or something like that. I've always just kind of had that number stuck in my head. So I would assume at this point I still have a couple years left in the fight game regardless.
Would going back up to 205 be an option, or?
I'm not really sure. I could see me taking a novelty fight at 205 per se, but to finish out a career there, it would be difficult for me now that I've fought at 85 for several years.
And made the weight.
Yeah. And my body weight has naturally dropped a few pounds. So physically, I'm just not a large 205-pound fighter. And that's kind of the same problem that Henderson ran into with Quentin. He's a much smaller guy to be fighting at 205, and it's difficult. It's not as easy to fight up a weight class today as it was, 10 years ago in this sport or something like that. The skill differences just aren't there anymore. When you're dealing with these top-notch athletes, these are world-class athletes, you can't give up 20 pounds against an equally skilled world-class athlete. So I don't know. I'm one of those guys. I kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and if something is thrown my way that I like, then it wouldn't be above me to say, hell, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, you're making your foray into Canada, and I know the UFC hasn't had an event in Canada, but they strike me as a lot like the Midwestern fans.
Yeah.
Hungry for MMA.
Exactly.
First bout 18,000 strong, not like some other places.
And it sold out before they even went to the to pre-sales. The Fight Club sold it out.
So that's got to be cool for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to take credit for that, but I'm sure that was all St. Pierre's doing and Stouts on the card. There are plenty of Canadians that.
Yeah, but you're the co-main event, man.
Yeah, well, I guess I've earned my right to be there.
I think so.
And I know I have a lot of fans in Canada, and I've spent some time up there. I've actually fought in Canada before. Before I fought with the UFC, I fought for the UCC many years ago, but. No, I still believe that they bought the tickets, regardless of whether my name was on the card or not. I think that
they just wanted that UFC.
Exactly, man. That's what happens. You bring, Fortunately, the same thing happened last March when we were here in Columbus. But we had a phenomenal card. You had Tim and Randy, and
Hughes and you.
Me and Matt were on the card, and so it was a great card. Midwest guys and all that kind of stuff, but. Regardless, I think the Midwest is so hungry for this kind of stuff that it probably would have sold out anyway, and the same thing in Canada.
Well, you know how it is. These are those hotbeds for MMA. And I'm from Northwest Indiana. We were talking about it. That is one of the biggest with the Ironheart Crown and
Yep.
the Shudo, all that stuff. So, it's real MMA fans. Less booing, more excitement, more appreciation for the ground game, and that
Exactly.
and that goes back to you were kind of part of that. The wave of popularity. I believe you fought Ken on the Ultimate Fighter finale.
Yep.
And that was pretty much for a lot of people the opening to mixed martial arts in general. So, I mean, it's got to be cool for you to just see the expansion of mixed martial arts. Just talk about like the last 3 or 4 years, what you've seen with your own eyes.
Oh, it's I mean, the sport has exploded. I don't even think I could begin to put into words in this interview how life has changed for me in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And you basically, I mean, that the night that I fought Ken, and that's when Forrest and Bonner fought, and that's of course a legendary fight.
And you followed that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, which is a tough act to follow. But I mean, I've seen this sport go from just kind of like one of them underground, popular within its little circle sports to everybody from 90-year-old women and 5-year-old boys and everybody in between. A lot of people know about this sport, and it's amazing because you talk about like just like 2 or 3 times this week I've been stopped, and I actually made the comment like, well, you don't appear to be my typical fan, and God's honest truth is I really don't have a typical fan. Like you think of that 18 to 34-year-old male demographic,
yeah, right.
And this sport really does appeal to so many more people than that. I'm sure that's our strongest base, but there are a lot. The fan base is so widespread in this sport that it's unbelievable, and it's unbelievable to see the metamorphosis that this sport has gone through over the last 3 years.
Yeah, and you talk about metamorphosis. That kind of leads me to an interesting question that I just kind of thought of is, I don't want to be too pushy, but it seems like you're kind of going to have to change your game in mixed martial arts a little bit, or maybe not necessarily change your game, but adapt or fix something, because the way Anderson fought you, it seemed like you didn't have, I mean, you definitely came in the second fight with a much better game plan.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was visibly, but he still beat you in kind of the same way. Are you going to be focusing more on the Muay Thai, or striking?
For this fight in particular with Luder, I'm going to really have to change gears.
That's
so
true.
My focus is going to have to be on that. And the thing is that as much as I don't want to lose to the same guy twice in my career,
Right.
It happened. And until I actually get back to him, if that ever does happen in my career, then I'll worry about that at that point. And like you said, in the second fight, we did do a lot of things better. There were some things that went right, but at the point that I got clipped at the end of the first round, it was pretty much game over from that point on. I just came out in the second round a sitting duck. So yeah, I mean, if I'm going to fight Silva, I'm either going to have to look at what I did for the last fight and improve upon that, or completely take a strategy and go a whole different route with it. But I mean, that's a fight that could happen 2 months from now, or it could never happen again.
Right.
So it's not something that I'm even wasting my concern over at this point.
Well, it's kind of one of those things. Styles make fights.
Yeah.
And even greats like Matt Hughes, he lost to Dennis Hallman twice,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it goes all the way down the line. So I
Yeah.
think people that were jumping to conclusions about things, and that's happened. I'm kind of interjecting my own opinions here, but over the last couple of years, I said, know-it-all MMA fans, people that don't step into the cage. I mean, I've heard rumblings that Mirko Krokop was done, and I mean, come on, you really like.
Yeah, that's
give credit where credit's due is basically what I'm saying. Doesn't that frustrate you when you hear stuff like that?
No, really, honestly, I'll tell you what. I do my thing. I train hard, prepare for my next opponent, and all the hearsay in one ear and out the other, and that's how I run my daily life. I don't read the forums, and I don't bother with opinions of people, and that's what you have to do. You have to just stay focused and make sure that you're concerned about what's going to make you better as a fighter so that you can continue on in your career. And that does go back to the comment. I mean, styles make fights. Everybody is kind of you look at some of the great fighters. I mean, there have been people that have had their kryptonite.
Yep.
Chuck's had a problem with Quentin. Randy's had a problem with Chuck.
Yep.
Matt's had a problem with St. Pierre. I've had a problem with Silva. So I mean, and the list goes on with people like that, and it just so happens. So it does kind of, for a lack of a better way to put it, suck that that 20 years from now, that's how things will be remembered.